Welcome to Backbone Unlimited. My name is Matt Hartsky. In this episode, we're talking about elk hunting at altitude and the conditioning system you can use to prevent mountain failure. Because altitude doesn't usually beat you all at once. It starts small. Your legs feel heavy. Your breathing gets short. Your heart rate stays high. You don't sleep very well. You don't eat enough. You get headaches. You start making poor decisions. Then, sometimes by day 3, you're not really even hunting anymore. You're just trying to survive the hunt. And that's where a lot of hunters get exposed, especially coming from lower altitudes. They weren't lazy. They weren't weak. They just trained for general fitness instead of mountain execution. So in this episode, I want to break down how altitude actually affects elk hunters, why fitness alone doesn't make you immune, and how to build a practical conditioning system that prepares your body for the real demands of elk country. Altitude doesn't create weaknesses, it exposes weaknesses. Now, if you're not familiar with who I am and why I have any business talking to you about this subject, I've been hunting and guiding Western big game for over 34 years, and I've been a professional strength conditioning and nutrition coach for more than 30 years as part of that background as an elite world-class endurance athlete, so I understand high altitude training for high altitude events. I'm here to help you become a more successful and consistent elk hunter, and part of that starts with your conditioning for the hunt. Altitude hits elk hunters hard, especially if they come from lower elevations, because it stacks problems on top of each other. At higher elevation, there's less oxygen available with each breath. That means your heart rate climbs faster, your breathing rate goes up sooner, normal effort feels harder, recovery takes longer, sleep can definitely get worse, appetite can drop, hydration becomes more important because dry mountain air and heavier breathing can pull fluid out of you faster than you realize. But the real issue here isn't just the elevation, it's elevation plus terrain, load, pressure, and time. You're not walking on a treadmill here. You're climbing steep ridges, side hilling, stepping over deadfall, crawling through timber, carrying a weapon, managing wind, and making decisions while your body is already under all that stress. And you don't have to be at 12,000 feet for this to matter. If you live low and hunt elk at 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 feet, you're going to feel it. The problem isn't just the altitude, it's everything elevation makes harder. This is one of the biggest mistakes elk hunters make, in my opinion. They think because they're in decent shape, maybe gym shape, that altitude won't affect them. And that's not necessarily true. Being fit absolutely helps. It gives you a bigger engine. It helps you recover better. It helps you tolerate the work, but it doesn't necessarily make you immune to the effects of altitude. A strong elk hunter can still get headaches. A runner can still struggle under pack weight. A lean guy can still sleep poorly. A gym fit hunter can still absolutely fall apart when the terrain gets steep and the air gets thin, especially when it comes to the pack out. Altitude acclimatization is its own process. Your body still has to adjust to the oxygen environment. That's why the first 24 to 48 hours matter so much. A lot of hunters drive all night, show up exhausted, hike straight in, push too hard on day 1, sleep poorly, and then wonder why the hunt goes sideways. Conditioning helps you handle altitude. The proper conditioning helps you handle the altitude. It doesn't erase it, though. The first 48 hours of a mountain hunt should be very controlled. That doesn't mean you sit around and do nothing. It means you don't let your ego write checks your body can't cash yet. A lot of elk hunters show up and immediately try to prove something. They might race to the highest basin or try to push that hardest, biggest climb right away because they're paying attention to what looks good on the map, or they're just having fear of missing out, right? They're just excited. They're ready to get after it and hunt, but then they're cooked before the hunt really starts. Early in the hunt, I want you to use controlled effort, scout, glass, check access, learn the wind, verify sign, make smart climbs, not emotional climbs. You need to hydrate steadily, eat even when you don't feel hungry, avoid alcohol, especially early at altitude. Keep your intensity lower when possible and let your body start adjusting. You're not trying to win day 1. You're trying to still be sharp on day 5, 10, 15, and later on in the season if you're still able to hunt. The hunter who burns himself down early doesn't necessarily get tougher. He just gets less effective. Hey, if you hunt public land elk and you're tired of grinding through random seasons, I built the elk hunting series of ebooks for you. Most hunters don't struggle because they lack effort. They struggle because they lack a system. And that's exactly why I built the elk hunting ebook series as a complete progressive framework for Western elk hunters who are done guessing and ready to hunt with intention. Volume 1 is going to be Foundations and Reality. I reset your mindset and expose the assumptions that quietly wreck seasons. In Volume 2, Finding Elk and Understanding Pressure, you'll learn how elk actually move under pressure so you can anticipate instead of react. In Volume 3, Terrain, Wind, and Position, I break down how to use landscape and thermals to consistently create opportunities. In Volume 4, Calling, Silence, and Pressure, sound becomes a decision tool, not an impulse. In Volume 5, Bow Hunting Execution, we're talking about close range strategy so you can finish your encounters. And in Volume 6, Late Season and Post Rut, we're talking about how elk shift after the rut and how to adapt when others quit. This is a system built for consistency. This isn't theory. It's a structured system to help you find elk, read country, and make confident decisions every season. Buy each volume individually or bundle them all to save 50% off at backboneunlimited.com. The conditioning system for elk hunting altitude has 6 parts to it. You need an aerobic base. You need uphill power. You need loaded strength endurance. You need downhill durability. You need breathing control, and you need recovery capacity. But a lot of elk hunters train 1 or 2 of those things and they ignore the rest because they don't understand them. Probably it's not intentional. Some guys lift hard but have no engine, no aerobic capacity. Some guys run a lot, but fall apart under heavy pack weight. Some guys hike with weight, but don't have true mountain strength. Some can climb well, but get destroyed coming downhill. Some can suffer once, but they can't recover and do it again and again after days. Elk hunting fitness isn't about just one big effort or just about training one area. It's not about one brutal workout. It's not about one impressive hike. It's about being able to repeat hard efforts without falling apart. That's a big difference there. You don't need to train like an elite endurance athlete. You need to train like a mountain hunter who has to move, think, recover, and execute. Your aerobic base is the foundation, your aerobic capacity. I know easy cardio doesn't sound hardcore. It doesn't make a great social media post, but it is one of the biggest reasons a hunter can keep functioning at altitude, especially days and days and days into the hunt. A strong aerobic base is going to help you control your breathing. It helps manage your heart rate. It helps you recover between climbs. It lets you keep moving without redlining all day. If every climb pushes you near max effort, you're going to make worse decisions. You're going to rush setups. You're going to need longer breaks. You're going to burn through energy a lot faster than you should. And that can be trained with incline treadmill work, hiking, step ups, stair climbing, long uphill walks, or even just steady zone 2 cardio on a bike or a rower. The key is controlled effort. You should be able to breathe, move, and maintain pace without turning every single session into a sufferfest. If your easy pace is too expensive, your hard pace is going to bury you. Now, elk hunting absolutely requires uphill power. We all know that. Your quads, your glutes, your calves, your hips, your trunk, and lungs all have to work together. But uphill training has to be built progressively. You don't start just by hammering brutal loaded climbs every day. That's how guys get hurt or burned out before season. So I'd recommend starting with repeatable work. Step ups, split squats, walking lunges, hill repeats, incline treadmill intervals, weighted stair climbs, kettlebell goblet squats, kettlebell carries. The point isn't to destroy yourself. The point is to build the ability to climb and still be useful when you get there. Because elk hunting doesn't reward the guy who reaches the top and collapses. It rewards the guy who reaches the top and can still glass, call, think, shoot, and make the next move. That's the standard. The goal is not to reach the top destroyed. The goal is to reach the top still dangerous. Now, a pack changes everything. It changes your breathing. It changes your posture. It changes how your feet hit the ground. It increases energy cost. It makes side hilling a lot harder. It makes descents a lot tougher. It exposes weak hips, weak ankles, weak trunk stability, and poor movement patterns. And at altitude, every one of those problems gets magnified. That's why training without load is really incomplete. It has to be part of the system. But that doesn't mean you throw 80 pounds on your back and start grinding every weekend. You need a progression here. So I'd recommend starting light. Build time first, then add weight. So train with the boots and pack you'll actually hunt in. Practice on uneven ground when you can. Don't just train uphill, also train downhill, train side hill, train controlled foot placement and movement. A pack should be part of your preparation, absolutely not a surprise on opening morning. At altitude, pack weight doesn't just feel heavier, it makes every mistake you make more expensive. Now, most elk hunters train for the climb, but they ignore or forget about the descent or can't figure out how to get that work in, and that's a mistake. The climb tests your engine, but the descent tests your structure. Downhill travel beats up your quads, your knees, your calves, your feet, your hips, and your lower back. It requires eccentric strength, which is your ability to control your body as you lower your weight, absorb, and decelerate your movement. A hunter can climb into elk country and then lose his legs coming out. And that matters even more after a kill when the pack gets really heavy and the terrain gets less forgiving. You can train this with step downs or reverse lunges or tempo squats, split squats, controlled downhill hikes, and loaded descents with moderate weight in your pack. But don't turn downhill training into reckless pounding either. Control here matters, so foot placement matters. Quiet movement patterns matter. If you can't descend safely, quietly, and under control, you're not really mountain ready. So pay attention to all of those things, not just doing the workout. Getting up the mountain is really only half the job. Getting back down, still functional, is the other half, and that's why all of this descent training is important. Breathing control is also a hunting skill. At altitude, breathing gets a lot harder, but panic breathing can make it worse. So you've got to work on this. If you can't settle your breathing after a climb, it's going to affect everything. You're going to move more loudly. You're going to rush setups. You're going to call poorly. You're going to shoot worse. You're going to make emotional decisions instead of disciplined ones. And in elk hunting, that really matters. You might climb into position and have seconds to execute. You might need to draw your bow after your heart rate is still high. You might need to still hold while a bull closes the distance. You might need to recover your breathing before making the shot. So we have to train for all of that. Don't leave it to chance. Use nasal breathing during easy cardio. Practice controlled exhales after your intervals. Shoot after elevated heart rate. Practice calming yourself down before you release an arrow. You don't rise to the shot. You're going to fall to the breathing control that you trained for. If your breathing owns you, the mountain owns you. Recovery is also part of conditioning that we need to talk about. That's something a lot of hunters miss or don't understand. They think readiness just means suffering harder, but at altitude, poor recovery can compound fast. Bad sleep, low calories, dehydration, too much caffeine, alcohol, overexertion, all of those can wreck a hunt quicker than a lot of elk hunters want to admit. You don't just need to survive one hard day. You need to come back and hunt again tomorrow and again the next day. That means recovery capacity has to be trained. You're going to do this by doing back-to-back hiking days, practicing longer efforts while fueling and eating. Use easy recovery walks. Build mobility into your week. Pay attention to your sleep. Train your body to work, recover, and then repeat that work. Because elk hunting isn't just one workout, it's repeated effort under imperfect conditions. The mountain doesn't care what you can do once, it cares what you can repeat. The best elk hunters aren't always the ones who can suffer the most either, but they are the ones who can recover well enough to stay effective day after day. Now, if you live at low elevation, you can't fully fake altitude, but that doesn't mean you're helpless, right? We can go a long ways towards being able to transition once you get up here to the altitude. You can train the systems altitude is going to expose. So you build your aerobic capacity, you build your aerobic base, you strengthen your legs, you train loaded movement, you practice climbing with incline treadmills or stadium stairs or step ups and hills. Maybe it's sand dunes if you have those where you live, or even just parking garage stairs. Use kettlebells, use a pack, use long loaded walks. You might not be able to recreate thin air, but you can absolutely show up with a much better engine, stronger legs, better breathing control, better pack tolerance, and better recovery. And all of those things are going to help you transition into the mountain better. And if you can arrive early, absolutely do it. If you can't arrive early, then control day 1 and 2 for sure. Don't show up from low elevation and immediately try to prove how tough you are. That's not a strategy. That's just gambling with the rest of your hunt. You may not be able to train at altitude, but you can absolutely train your body the way altitude is going to expose your weaknesses. And that is going to give you a real advantage. Now, here's the checklist I would like you to use before season. Can you climb for 45 to 90 minutes without redlining? Not just walking out there on the flat, climbing, right? Serious climbing. Can you hike under load without your posture collapsing? Can you descend? Long downhill descents under control? Can you side hill without falling apart? Can you recover overnight? Can you eat and hydrate when you don't feel like it? Because altitude will affect those things. Can you shoot after breathing hard? Are you practicing that every day? Can you make smart decisions when you're tired? Can you slow down early so you can actually hunt hard later? That's a better question than, am I in shape? Because elk hunting isn't general fitness, it's mountain specific execution. A lot of elk hunters are fit enough to start the hunt, but not prepared enough to finish it well. And that's the difference. So the question isn't whether you can suffer. The question is whether your fitness survives the mountain. And if you're honest with that checklist, you'll know exactly where your weak links are before elk season exposes them. Are you an optimal elk hunter? If you answer yes, perfect. You're ready to roll and head out here a couple of days early to get acclimated. If the answer is no, why not? It is completely within your control. Altitude is not an excuse. It's not something to fear either, but it does need to be respected. Most mountain failure is preventable. Not all of it, but a lot of it. The hunter who prepares specifically, paces intelligently, hydrates consistently, fuels properly, protects their recovery, and trains for repeated mountain effort day to day to day has a massive advantage over the hunter who just tries to tough it out. You don't need to be an elite athlete to hunt elk well, but you do need to be honest about the things that I've talked about today. You need to trade for the hunt you're actually going on, not the gym version, not the flatland version, not the fantasy version, the real mountain version, or the low elk hunting success rates are going to become a reality for you because you weren't prepared. Altitude doesn't beat the hunter who respects it. It beats the hunter who ignores it until the mountain collects the bill. Now, if you want to go deeper into the elk hunting side of this, the movement, the pressure patterns, the terrain positioning, and structured decision making, that's exactly why I built the elk hunting series of ebooks. It's a progressive system designed to help you understand how elk actually use country and how to position yourself accordingly. I have a link to those ebooks in the description. If you want hands-on application and real-time breakdowns, we have an in-person Elk Camp 2026 that's built around this same philosophy: structure, preparation, and execution in real time. You can check out Elk Camp at backboneunlimited.com. We're running out of time for 2026. If you missed 2026, get signed up for 2027. And if you want ongoing access to the Team Backbone community, classroom, my full digital vault of elk resources, private discussion, and direct communication to me for planning, you can join Team Backbone at backboneunlimited.com underneath our membership tab. Everything we talk about here is connected. Preparation is not a single video, it's a system. Thanks for all of you. I hope to see you in the comments. Until next time, train harder, hunt smarter, and never settle.